Welcome back and thank you for staying with Bottomline Africa. An East African Communities Verification Mission recently visited the Democratic Republic of Congo to assess the country's suitability to be admitted into the community. The verification team comprised 3 experts from each partner state. The regional bloc's member states are eyeing the Democratic Republic of Congo market of 86.7 million people and eager to have the vast country join the bloc. DRC is currently a member of the Southern African Development Community SADC. Dr. Kevit Desai, PS EAC, was among those in the fact-finding mission and now joins us live in studio to talk about the findings and many more issues related to the state of the East African community. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Now, this is a discussion that was, of course, pivoted on the meeting by the summit of the EAC heads of state on the rather earlier in the year, where they agreed to have this verification exercise, which you were a part of. First of all, talk to us, for you landed in DRC just recently, what were some of the things that perhaps on a personal level and also as the PS for EAC in Kenya, you looked out for even before you get to the broader perspective? What are some of the things that you were looking to find out?
No, indeed, very exciting, Mr. Moringa, and very warmly welcomed by His Excellency Tshisekedi to Congo. Our mission was welcomed in a big way with respect to the relationship and the potential it has between partner states and the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I think that this is indeed one of the most tremendous opportunities within the context of EAC integration, for it brings the potential of approximately 260 million people now within an integrated bloc. And it's through this verification mission that we hope to look into all the features with respect to governance, human rights, social issues, and further their policies and their complementarity to the EAC treaty. And the fact of verifying its positioning as far as being a market-driven economy. This is extremely important for us for sustainability and the further promotion of economic and social development. We can imagine a young person or an industrialist who's producing shoes, for example, in Kilifi, having now an export potential of 260 million people, with frameworks and structures which promote that market with respect to access and equity, but also the security by way of ensuring that standards are harmonized, as well as policies and legislations and regulation, thereby promoting greater competitiveness from the onset of an industrialist's access to market. Now, this could be both ways, you know, Congo supplying into East Africa at 150 million, or vice versa, complementing greater diversification of industrial value chains, and at the same time, you know, promoting the highest level of capacity towards the protection of our social capacities, the rich diversity we have as people between the continent.
Yeah, we will get to the specifics and the the figures of all this, but I want us to start with a pillar that is, of course, pivotal to any nation, and that is infrastructure. And I'll begin with the DRC transport corridor. What were your reflections about that, and what were you, from the verification exercise you conducted, is expanding this corridor something that perhaps the EAC would be eager to consider?
Yes, yes, by all means, extremely strategic to connect the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean through the DRC, but most importantly to build a potential market for our existing transport industry within EAC, which starts within Mombasa and Dar es Salaam and then cuts across to the entire continent. And so it's this huge potential as a transport industry. After all, you see that the continent itself has almost a $6.2 trillion consumerism. And if you see that, you know, a quarter of it exists within this block, then you see that the direct access and opportunity by way of ensuring that we're able to promote freight and logistics becomes a key industry for the entire regional block, and promotes that value proposition for greater efficiency and productivity and innovation development within that context. So extremely strategic. The interconnectivity pillar is also based on technology like ICTs as much as it is of roads and intermodal systems like lakes and other kinds of key technologies and systems.
Indeed, and this being East Africa, the East African community has 6 nations. So far, we'll be having the 7th. Perhaps, what would be the or rather, how would we end up being in the long run? Will we finally admit the Democratic Republic of Congo to the EAC? As perhaps would that be the main objective for this verification exercise?
Yes, indeed. It would be to look into all the details and with respect to the treaty and the requirements as far as complementary policies, as well as issues with respect to governance and human rights. We'd look at this from a multidimensional perspective, from a social environment, proximity perspective, but also the economic perspective and the complementarity between our entire relationship.
One might ask, how soon would we see the outcome of the verification exercise? Is this one of many, or is this one of just, the broader perspective of it all? And how soon then can we see the finalization of the admission of the DRC into the EAC?
Well, the process is as follows. The verification mission has already started. It's now establishing a report. It'll then and thereafter present it to a structured approach with respect to the council, the ministerial council, and subsequently to the summit heads of state. So I think that within this year, you'd most likely see the possibility of DRC Congo joining the East African community.
And then now that would mean that in the next financial year, we may have the EAC or rather, as we close this financial year, heading over into the new financial year, we may see the EAC integrated, and this means that it's an expansion of the EAC budget. Talk to us about funding this budget, because remember, the DRC is coming in as a huge player with potential in mining, and it also has mining opportunities available. What are some of the key areas that we'll be looking into, because this budget will be expanded into now funding the already expanded budget for the EAC?
Indeed, the budget is hugely strategic for the overall promotion of integration, whether it's the customs union and the development of one-stop border posts, the promotion of greater innovations to mitigate issues with respect to non-tariff barriers, or the ability for us to have seamless interconnectivity from pre-arrival issues at ports all the way through our corridors and to a client, looking at the entire value chain from an end-to-end ecosystem, the potential of the common market and the protocols therein to ensure that we're able to promote interdependent value chains and build further capacities as far as the promotion of strategic markets, whether it's textiles, shoes, or the ability for us to look into leather or complement our automotive industry within this context. All of this goes a long way towards ensuring that indeed we are market-driven, that the ability for us to have a budget which enables us to profoundly promote shape as far as market systems that are efficient and common to all countries is at the forefront of budget making. And within this context, last week we had the East African Legislative Assembly assent and approve the budget for this new financial year, approximately $97 million. I would say that 70% is from partner state contributions, the rest is from development partners. And the objective here is to look very closely at our current context due to the unprecedented challenges we're faced with the pandemic, and to promote the recovery of our economies through industrialization and promoting inclusive development. And what that means is that, we will put a huge emphasis now in strategic, having developed all these structures and frameworks and mechanisms like the customs union, the common market, the single customs territory, and all the infrastructure, the policies, strategies, and legislations. We'll put a huge strategic initiative to promoting the inclusion of the private sector And this is extremely important in view of the fact that markets are dynamic, they're living, and therefore, their role towards enriching policy, legislation, regulation needs to be there. Standards are absolutely critical, but the proportionality of the outcomes of our work have to be guided within the context of private sector growth and development and sustainability.
But yes, as so far as common markets is concerned, the establishment of a common currency, the eradication of taxes and creating a free trade area, these are still teething problems in the current treaty. We haven't seen that much resolved. So what are some of those policies with the entry of the DRC that the EAC then would be perhaps keen on passing the policies and the regional agreements that will now benefit the common mananchi? Because yes, finally, we may have the DRC join us, but what impact would it have on, wananchi of Kenya and also the extended residents of the EAC?
Well, it'll have a multiple impact as far as creating greater self-reliance for the bloc by way of us looking after our natural resources, whether it's lakes and, for example, the joint efforts towards the contamination of lakes, or the ability to look after our natural resources in a way which is equitable. But it's also a way in which we're able to promote the highest level of social inclusion, the diversity that exists within our cultures, and the promotion of innovation therein, the ability to promote market systems and interdependent market systems. This could have a huge implication for someone who's willing to start an industry and be able to venture out based on the fact that the market exists, it's accessible, and it's efficient by way of the complementarity and competitiveness, and thereby ensuring a greater return. But it's also the possibility that partner states could galvanize together to be first-time buyers, like Kenya has positioned itself in these COVID-19 times, to support local content, thereby promoting greater self-reliance within the context of our bloc and our economy and sustainability. And it's also to find ways in which we create greater resilience. It's absolutely critical that even in this health crisis, in this pandemic, that we jointly work together to find ways in which we're able to contain it, but at the same time address common solutions to challenges that are common too. So it's a broad-based opportunity which would be felt immediately. And by way of all this investment, in terms of ongoing investment in roads and ports and so on, the main arteries are interconnected and therefore connect to the tiniest village. And therefore the urgent call is indeed to look into possible ways of greater investment within this huge project, and that is multidimensional, but at the same time is growing with respect to its capability to harmonize.
Right, Doctor. Even as you wind up this interview, your reflections on the further from your interaction with the EAC organs and institutions, with the DRC now coming in later on, perhaps these years you've mentioned, how then do we ensure that the EAC is actually strong in as much as the initial treaty of 1999, where the vision was established, to just ensure that actually it achieves its purpose even as we extend and expand our horizons to admit new countries? How then do we just ensure that the teething problems are eradicated and then we are able to move on and forge a new future smoothly?
Well, there's a growing consensus that indeed the ability for us to be nationalistic is no longer sustainable, economically, socially, or environmentally. And therefore, we do need to think as Africans. And this could be what is the sound foundation for us to promote other strategic initiatives, like the promotion of technology by way of promoting that integration capacity, promoting that cohesiveness. Technology demonstrates it. While it can't solve every single problem, I can't imagine not using it to solve many of the challenges that we face today. And the cohesiveness of market systems depend on that interconnected ability, that ability for us to measure, to act upon the statistics that have. And technology would be one of those strategic initiatives that would really promote the promise for integration, together with our youth. The average age is 17.5, and their ability for scope and opportunity beyond their national borders is tremendous in this case, and a great contributor to EAC integration.
Yeah, indeed, and that's a discussion that, of course, doesn't end here. Thank you so much. We've been speaking to Dr. Kevit Desai, who is the PS in the Ministry of